August 12th, 2000. The Barents Sea. Russia's Northern Fleet was carrying out one of its largest naval exercises since the end of the Cold War. At the heart of it was the Kursk, K-141, a massive nuclear-powered submarine stretching more than 500 feet and designed to carry some of the deadliest weapons in the Russian arsenal. The Kursk was a symbol of power, strength, and pride. A vessel believed to be unsinkable. But just hours into the exercise, disaster struck. 2 explosions ripped through the submarine's forward compartments, and within minutes, the Kursk sank to the bottom of the Barents Sea. 118 sailors were trapped inside. The world watched as desperate rescue attempts unfolded, but time was running out. Behind the tragedy lay unanswered questions about safety, secrecy, and the very future of Russia's navy. This is the story. Hey guys, the inside of a submarine is colder than you expect. Metal walls, sweating faint condensation, the hum of machinery, pulsing like a second heartbeat. You're 30 feet below the icy surface of the Barents Sea, and your boots click softly against the narrow gangway as you make your way past rows of sleeping quarters, tangled cables, and photos taped to walls. The air smells faintly of oil, steel, and tea. Someone's always brewing it. The Kursk is alive with routine. Nothing feels dangerous yet. That's the trick. You run your fingers along the wall, the vibration steady, predictable. The submarine is massive, over 500 feet long, double-hulled, a city underwater, and you're part of the crew. Not just part of it, part of its rhythm. Training exercise today. Routine. You're under the impression that this ship is unsinkable, nuclear-powered, and proudly Russian. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is. I love seeing our sleepy little map fill up. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Kursk is already submerged when the first hiccup happens. Barely a blip. A pressure gauge jumps, then steadies. The crew barely notices. You joke about it with the torpedo team, Soviet engineering and duct tape. But somewhere in the forward compartment, one torpedo has begun to fail, in a way no one can see yet. Its hydrogen peroxide fuel is leaking slowly, eating at metal like acid, disguised as steam. You keep moving through the halls, grabbing a quick bite in the mess. Black bread, pickles, sausage. Someone complains about the coffee. You laugh. You've heard this complaint for months. There's always something wrong with the coffee on submarines. There's a kind of claustrophobic comfort in this vessel. You know the creaks and groans. You know the men, too. Some are still kids. Some are pushing 40. One of them, Alexei, is reading a dog-eared Tom Clancy novel. You nod at him. He nods back, like everything's fine. At this moment, above you, waves roll over the Barents like bruises on water. NATO ships lurk just beyond radar range, observing the Russian naval exercises. You're playing Cold War hide-and-seek again, pretending the old rivalry isn't on life support. But someone still cares. Someone's still watching. You return to your post. The exercise is simple enough. Track, simulate, retreat. You've done it a dozen times, but there's tension you can't quite name. The Kursk is carrying live torpedoes this time, not dummies. It's been years since a live fire during training. Somewhere forward, near compartment 4, the faulty torpedo continues its quiet sabotage. This is a VA-111 Schwal, a rocket-powered supercavitating torpedo, supposedly capable of hitting Mach 2 underwater. Historians still argue whether that tech ever really worked as advertised. But here it is, glowing silently with potential energy. One of the crew in that section, Sergei, notices a strange warmth on a nearby pipe. He calls it in. No one panics. This is a nuclear submarine after all. There are always oddities. You note it on the log, shrug, and keep the routine. Lunch ends. Drills continue. You run diagnostics. Somewhere, the commanding officer is checking in with the surface fleet. There's radio silence. Always is during war games. The idea is to simulate chaos. It's going well. The odd warmth turns to heat. Then, without warning, a vibration, subtle at first, like someone dropped a wrench in a distant room. You and a few others glance up. Someone cracks a joke, probably Ivan, the same guy who put a rubber duck in the captain's tea last week. Then the first sound hits. It is not a bang. It is a rupture, like the entire front half of the submarine inhaled too hard and couldn't exhale. You're thrown sideways. Alarms scream. Lights flicker. Somewhere ahead, fire meets water, meets pressure. The faulty torpedo, finally pushed too far by its unstable fuel, explodes with the force of 250 kilograms of TNT. The forward compartments are obliterated. The blast rips through the nose of the Kursk. Compartments 1 through 4, gone in an instant. The bulkheads seal automatically, too late for those men. They never knew what hit them. The metal groan, like an old god turning in sleep. Then silence. Not real silence. Just the thick, charged hush of everyone realizing this isn't part of the drill. Someone's bleeding. You smell electrical fire. The emergency lights bathe everything in yellow horror. You reach for your headset, but the comms are fried. We try again. Static. Fax. Fax. What rage does man make? Freezing. Static. I'm going to try again. Static. You don't know this yet, but the explosion was recorded by 2 American hydroacoustic stations, one in Norway, one in Alaska. Analysts in Virginia will soon listen to the signal and frown. It's not seismic. It's man-made. Something big just broke underwater. You try to make your way aft. The sub is pitched at a slight angle now. Not drastic, but wrong. You count the steps between hatches. Some of them won't open. One does, barely. You squeeze through. One corridor is filled with smoke. Not black, brown, chemical. You cover your mouth with your sleeve and yell for anyone who can hear. A few voices reply. Someone is sobbing. In the crew quarters, you find Mikhail pinning a younger sailor's arm with a belt to stop the bleeding. He nods when he sees you. You nod back, because there's no point asking questions he can't answer. You think about the emergency surface protocol. You know it by heart. You also know the Kursk is designed to survive anything. Double hull, modern tech. But the hull isn't the problem anymore. It's what's inside. There's no order yet. No direction. The captain hasn't been heard from since the blast. You start issuing instructions anyway. Seal that hatch. Ration that water. Keep people talking. You don't let them look at the ceiling. The pipes are buckling. In the torpedo room, there are still unexploded weapons. The ones that didn't detonate are now cooking quietly in heat and pressure. You don't know if you have 10 minutes or 10 hours before the second explosion. But you keep moving, because what else is there to do? It's the quiet after the first blast that gnaws at your mind. Not because silence is unfamiliar, it's the one thing you're used to down here, but because this silence is wrong. It feels like something is holding its breath. You try not to imagine what's happening just a few bulkheads away. You try not to think about how hot it must be where the first torpedo exploded, or what kind of heat can slice steel open like wet paper. You don't have to imagine for long. It happens without warning. The second explosion doesn't sound like anything. It feels like everything. The torpedo room goes up. Another explosion, this one bigger than the first. The official number tossed around later will be 7 tons of TNT. In a moment, Everything in the forward half of the Kursk becomes kinetic energy. Fire rips down corridors. Bulkheads ripple. The submarine jerks like a dying fish and slams against the ocean floor. Bow first, embedding itself 350 feet under. You're thrown against a wall, the air knocked out of you. Ears ringing. A pipe snaps somewhere nearby, and a hiss fills the hallway. Compartment 6 is now your world. You blink through smoke and dust and taste metal on your tongue. Someone's yelling names. Yours might be one of them. There's no time to answer. The lights are completely gone now. All that's left is emergency glow. Green, sickly, flickering. You drag yourself upright and do a head count. 19, maybe 20. One guy's unconscious. 2 others are moving like marionettes whose strings have been half cut. It's hard to say who's injured and who's in shock. You all are, really. One of the enlisted men, Boris, keeps whispering that the ceiling is moving. You want to snap at him, tell him it's just his head spinning. But then you look up and see he's right. The steel above you is subtly warping. Not enough to fall, not yet, but the sub has shifted. You realize then, you're no longer horizontal. The Kursk has nosed into the seabed at a 40-degree angle. Every hallway, every floor is now a slope. One man tries to walk and stumbles into a bulkhead. Another vomits. Gravity, that old traitor, is mocking your training. Somewhere far above, the Russian Northern Fleet Command Center has noticed that Kursk missed its scheduled report. But they don't panic. Submarines vanish from radar all the time during exercises. The sea is big. Boats are small. They'll call it routine radio silence. You know better. You start organizing supplies. In the dim light, someone locates a watertight storage locker. Inside are a few flashlights, a toolkit, and rations meant for emergencies. You distribute iodine pills without knowing if anyone's already absorbed radiation. Standard protocol. It's something to do. The air is okay, for now. A little stale, a little warm. But the carbon dioxide levels will rise quickly. There's an oxygen regeneration system, a chemical one, designed for situations like this. But it's in compartment 7, the next room over. The hatch is jammed. You and 3 others try to force it open. A pipe wrench, a crowbar, even a hydraulic jack from the storage locker. Nothing works. It's wedged shut by the shift in the sub's frame. You can hear something sloshing on the other side. Water. Maybe only a foot, maybe 10. But here's the part that really hits you. Compartment 7 has the escape hatch, the only viable route out. And it's 1 room too far. You sit down, back against a cold wall. A thin trickle of water is winding down the slope, puddling at the base of the hallway. It's slow now, but it won't be forever. You hear someone humming. It's almost absurd. One of the younger sailors, Dmitri, has retreated into a childhood lullaby. You don't stop him. It's not hurting anyone. The human brain will do what it must. You pass the time inventorying tools. You find a grease pencil and a blank engineering chart and start making notes. This becomes your new log. It's an act of quiet rebellion against the chaos. Proof you were here, and that someone was still thinking. It's cold now. Not freeze your skin cold, but that creeping chill submariners hate. The kind that seeps into your bones and turns morale brittle. You rub your hands together. Someone wraps a thermal blanket around an injured man. Someone else jokes about how the Navy should have invested in better heating. It gets a weak laugh. That's something. Over the next hour, you try everything you can to signal. You hammer on the hull with a pipe. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Classic SOS. It echoes. Distant. Useless. No one outside is listening. Not yet. Historians still argue whether the rescue could have started earlier if command hadn't assumed everything was fine. The first 12 hours are critical in any sub-disaster. But on August 12, 2000, Russian command waits until late afternoon to even call the Kursk missing. And when they do, they keep it quiet. It takes until the next morning before they admit they've lost contact with one of their prize submarines. Meanwhile, back in your iron coffin, air is growing heavy. Your breath leaves a fault trail now. You ration energy, no sudden movements. People are quieter, conserving oxygen. You find a can of condensed milk and pass it around on a spoon. It tastes like childhood. It tastes like something from before. You scribble another note on your grease pencil log. 19 alive in compartment 6. Need rescue. Water rising. You tape it to the inner bulkhead, just in case. You wonder what time it is. One of the crew swears it's nearly nightfall, but that means nothing down here. The sea doesn't care about sunrises. A few meters away, one of the men, a lieutenant named Kapranov, is scribbling furiously in his own notebook. Later, they'll find these pages. They'll become evidence, proof of survival. Some of the last human handwriting from the Kursk. His entries are clipped, factual. He writes like a man cataloguing the end. You admire that. Above you, the Russian Navy has begun a chaotic ballet of denial. They scramble to find divers. They contact other vessels. They turn down foreign help, British, American, Norwegian, claiming they have it under control. They don't. And you're still here, checking your watch, listening to the groan of steel, shifting like the sigh of something enormous and dying. You sit in the dim green glow of compartment 6, the faint hiss of the Kursk's damaged systems, a constant reminder of your prison. The water continues to rise, an unwelcome tide that snakes under the doors and pulls at your feet. It smells metallic and cold, like the inside of a glacier melting. Your muscles ache from the awkward positions you've been forced into, and every breath feels thicker than the last. You're beginning to learn what it means to be trapped inside a submarine wreck, suspended between hope and despair. The survivors are clustered close, sharing what little warmth the body heat of 19 men can generate. You feel the sharp contrast between the occasional bursts of whispered conversations and long silences heavy with fear. The submarine is alive in other ways too. The metal creaks and moans, the pipes groan, and sometimes there's the distant thump of shifting debris settling on the ocean floor. It's a subterranean symphony of unease. You try to focus on the mundane, the things that keep your mind tethered. You pass around the last of the food, a few cans of condensed milk and some crackers, carefully rationed. You chew slowly, savoring the strange sweetness, like an old memory from a faraway childhood. The coffee is long gone, and the water rationing has become a daily ritual. You're all experts now at silent calculations. How much air? How much water? How much time? One of the survivors, a young sailor named Pavel, tells you about his hometown, a place you've never heard of, painting pictures with words. It's a welcome distraction from the claustrophobic reality. Someone else starts humming a tune from an old Soviet cartoon, the notes echoing oddly through the steel walls. You smile, despite yourself. It's these little moments of normalcy that keep you alive, even as the pressure of the ocean presses in from all sides. Historians still argue whether the initial rescue attempts were delayed by bureaucracy or bad luck. What's clear is that outside the submarine, time is running out faster than anyone admits. The Russian Navy had to overcome an immense pride that kept them from asking for help early on, fearing the humiliation of foreign intervention. NATO offers to assist immediately, but the Kremlin's answer is a curt no. You overhear discussions about sending rescue divers, but the water is freezing, and the depth is punishing. The Navy's diving bells are old, and the rescue submersibles are slow and cumbersome. There's talk of using British and Norwegian submersibles, machines that could lock onto the Kursk's escape hatch and ferry men to the surface. But political pride wins over practicality. Meanwhile, inside, the oxygen scrubbers in compartment 6 are strained to the limit. You can feel the air getting stale, heavier, like breathing through a wet cloth. Carbon dioxide levels rise, dulling your senses and clouding your thoughts. Some sailors begin to suffer headaches and dizziness. You hold your breath longer between breaths, trying to conserve what little oxygen you have. In the middle of the night, you write another note on your grease pencil log. Water rising steadily, air thinning, morale fragile, but fighting. You tape it to the bulkhead, hoping someone will find it someday. The cold gnaws deeper. You wrap your thin blanket tighter around your shoulders and try not to shiver. You remember a bizarre fact you read once, that submariners used to paint the interior walls with crocodile dung as a kind of sunscreen in tropical climates. It's ridiculous, but it makes you chuckle softly. You feel guilty for laughing. I feel guilty for laughing.
Your mind drifts to your family. You think about your daughter's birthday. Miss.
Phone calls, the promises you made to yourself. You wonder if anyone above knows how close you are to running out of time. You wonder if anyone cares. But you keep talking, keep moving, keep breathing. Because that's all you can do. But the phone calls. Outside the Kursk, the world spins on in a strange kind of denial. Up on the surface, the Russian Navy clutches tightly to its narrative. One of control, competence, and above all, secrecy. Reports filter in slowly, each more evasive than the last, as the brass scramble to keep the disaster from becoming an embarrassment in a post-Soviet world still learning how to handle tragedy without collapsing. The government speaks in carefully crafted half-truths and delays, while the families of the lost sailors are left grasping for answers that never fully come. You hear the muffled echoes of a political drama unfolding somewhere beyond the steel hull. NATO offers help. The British and Norwegians have the technology, the experience, the rescue subs waiting. But pride, that old Soviet beast, snarls louder than compassion. The Kremlin declines assistance. Officials promise that Russia's own navy can handle it. They even stage a mock rescue for the press. Big smiles, shining equipment, and rehearsed confidence masking chaos. You, trapped below, become an unwilling observer of this farce. You hear the distant thrum of foreign vessels monitoring the situation, their sonar picking up your silent struggle. It's ironic. The Cold War may be over, but the press, ghosts of rivalry, still choke cooperation when it's needed most. Historians still argue whether political pride doomed the rescue efforts, or if it was simply a tragic series of missteps. The families waiting at naval bases and embassies gather each day with flickering hope. Their faces, illuminated by the soft glow of cell phones and candlelight vigils, tell stories of quiet desperation. You think of their tears, their unanswered prayers. Somewhere, a wife waits for a call that will never come. Rescue attempts finally begin, slow and halting. Midget submarines try to dock at the Kursk's escape hatch, but the shift in the wreck's position and debris block the way. The hatch itself is jammed tight, a cruel gatekeeper refusing passage. Divers work in freezing, crushing depths, conditions so brutal that every minute spent underwater is a battle with death. You imagine the divers, black silhouettes, moving cautiously, hearts pounding not from fear, but hope. If only they could reach you. But even the most advanced rescue vehicles of the time struggle against the Kursk's twisted hull. Mechanical failures plague the attempts, and progress inches forward like a glacier. Inside, You feel the disconnect sharply. The world above you is active, searching, strategizing. Meanwhile, you and your fellow survivors cling to dwindling air and fading hope. You wonder if your cries for help have crossed the water's thick veil. You wonder if you are already a ghost beneath the waves. Communication remains impossible. The radio equipment is damaged. The crew's voices reduced to whispered prayers. Some of the men start to retreat inward, speaking less, their eyes glassy. Others take on the burden of leadership with grim determination, organizing what little energy remains. The emergency lights flicker. Water seeps higher. You taste salt in the air now, a bitter reminder of the ocean's cold embrace. Every breath burns a little more. You try to block out the noises, the creaks, the distant groans of shifting metal, the occasional metallic drip that sounds like a slow death. You hold on to fragments of memory, a joke about the crocodile dung sunscreen you told in Section 3, the lullaby Dmitri hums in Section 2. These anchors tether you to humanity. In a moment of quiet clarity, you scrawl another note. Still alive. Still fighting. Rescue may come. It may be the last message you ever write. Days drag on, each one stretching longer than the last, as the survivors inch toward a fate they cannot control. You no longer count hours, only moments, breaths, and the slow creep of water rising around your ankles. The Kursk has become a tomb, and yet you still fight, still find scraps of hope in small acts of defiance. The emergency oxygen systems have been running continuously, but their filters are failing. Some men cough, their lungs roar and death. The warmth of your breath fogs the lenses of your glasses. Your thoughts are sluggish, weighed down by the growing cold and the thinness of the air. You remember the political games unfolding on the surface, the denials, the refusals of foreign aid, the staged press conferences. It's hard not to feel anger, not just at the pride that doomed the rescue efforts, but at the silence that followed, at the families left in the dark, at the world that waited too long to act. But your fellow sailors do not give in. Kapranov, who's been writing in his notebook, reads out loud passages from Russian literature, Pushkin and Lermontov, trying to lift spirits. Dmitri hums the lullaby again. You chuckle quietly at the absurdity of finding poetry in a sinking submarine. It's the human spirit flaring stubbornly against oblivion. Outside, the rescue efforts have finally intensified. Foreign vessels are permitted closer. British and Norwegian submersibles descend into the darkness, their pilots skilled in navigating the twisted wreckage. They attempt to connect their rescue pods to the escape hatch. Each time, they are thwarted. By debris, by shifting wreckage, by the cruel geometry of a metal beast broken in half. Historians still debate whether the rescue could have succeeded if international aid had been accepted sooner. Some argue political pride sealed the Kursk's fate. Others point to the technical challenges and the treacherous depths as the primary culprits. Meanwhile, inside, the water has risen significantly. It laps just below the ceiling of your compartment. You can feel the coldness pressing down, threatening to invade your sanctuary. The bulkhead separating you from the flooded compartments is groaning, a haunting reminder that time is running out. You write one last note, hands trembling. For those who find this, remember us. You place it carefully inside a pocket of your uniform, hoping it might someday surface. Your thoughts drift to home, to sunlit days and warm rooms, to faces you may never see again. You close your eyes and picture your daughter's smile. I think I smile red.
A promise you made to keep fighting for her, for your brothers in arms. The lights dim to near blackness, the air thins further. And still you breathe. Still You hold on. The Kursk is silent now, save for the whispers of the sea outside and the fading heartbeat of its crew.